Well, welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. I'm so excited tonight. I was finally able to coax the recipe for my favorite chicken rice soup out of the waiter at my favorite Mexican restaurant. So I'm going to make it for you tonight. Here are the ingredients. Please pause and write them down. And hey, we love it when you like and share and subscribe. So please do. Now let's get cooking. So we'll start with a cast iron skillet with about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and it's pretty warm. And I have about a pound of chicken meat here. This recipe is very easily doubled, just according to how many people you're serving. And I've dried it off and salted it, as I always do, and we're going to brown it just a little bit first. I talk about browning meat before you boil it or whatever you plan to do with it, because the browning gives it a little extra flavor. So I'm going to let this brown about 1.5 minutes on each side. Not trying to get it done, just adding a little flavor. See, not a whole lot here, but we want to get that nice little crispy bit on the outside. Then we'll add 1 quart of chicken broth, and I'm out of my homemade bone broth, but this is organic and it's second best, but pretty darn good. So when I get this broth in, I'm just going to turn the heat to medium, set this chicken on the back burner, and let it simmer while I make the Mexican rice. And the secret to this recipe, the reason I could never quite get it right, is because the basis is Mexican rice, and you'll have a recipe here for Mexican rice even if you're not making this soup. This is a second skillet with about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and I'm putting in 1 cup of white rice. I washed this in hot water and then rinsed it in cold water. You don't really have to do that, but I think you get a better product if you do, but you can just put the rice in. And we're going to brown this rice a little bit, stirring all the time until we start to get a little golden color. This is on medium heat, and it really only takes a couple minutes, but you do have to stir it or it will stick. I know it's hard for you to see it in the video, but you will see the beginning of the golden color. And then you want to add some onion. That's a medium onion, and it's a medium chop, not too very small. And we're going to stir that in and let these begin to brown together. And then I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of chopped bell pepper. This was out of my garden, and it had just started to turn red. So from this 1 pepper, I got both colors. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to stir that around too. Now remember, I've got no liquid in here, so you stir a lot. And now for spices. I'm adding 1/2 teaspoonful, maybe just a touch more, of cumin. This is ground cumin. And then I'm going to add a teaspoonful of powdered garlic, dried garlic. You can use fresh garlic if you want to in here. I just like the powdered garlic because it gets all through the rice. The taste spreads really nicely. Then we're going to add about a teaspoonful of salt. Now, my broth that I'm going to use is salted broth. So you want to add salt to taste, but just remember, with a rice dish, rice or potatoes or noodles, a lot of your flavor comes from salt, so don't skimp. By the time you spread it out over the whole family, a teaspoonful and a half is really not a lot of salt. And I'm a believer that if you salt while you're cooking, people won't salt at the table and will use less salt. Then we're adding about 1/2 teaspoonful of red pepper flakes. And you can use black pepper, but in this dish, boy, red pepper flakes is just perfect. And I used bell pepper, so that doesn't bring any heat. You can use hot peppers if you'd rather. Now we've still added no liquid, so we have to keep stirring. And I'm going to add a half cup of chopped up tomatoes. These are from my home canned tomatoes. I drained them and then just chopped the tomatoes up. You can add tomato sauce if you would rather, a half cup of tomato sauce, but I just like the little bits of tomato in it. Not just for the flavor, but also I like the way that looks. Just to note, this recipe is going to serve 4. It'll be 4 bowls of soup, and it's very easily doubled. Just remember that 1 cup of rice takes 2 cups of chicken broth, which we're going to add now, and 2 cups of rice would take 1 quart of chicken broth. So I'm going to put in my chicken broth, let this come back to a good simmer, not a boil, but a simmer. And when it's back up to heat, I'm going to turn it to a medium-low, put the lid on, set my timer for 25 minutes. And that's basically all there is to Mexican or Spanish rice. Now let's get back to our soup. This chicken has been back here just simmering slowly while we've prepared our rice. And I'm going to take the chicken out, let it cool just a little bit so I can chop it up. And we're not going to do a whole lot more to it. I'm squeezing in 1 fresh lime, and I'm not adding any other seasonings except lime and a little bit of cilantro. Our seasonings are in the rice, and you probably won't need any salt in this because I salted the chicken and it was salted chicken broth. So this is pretty much all we're going to do to this. I'll just add the chicken meat back in. I'll let it sit and simmer on a low heat while I wait for the rice to be finished. Then we'll put the final presentation together. This is really a pretty quick meal, about 30-35 minutes from beginning to end. And that's a pretty quick supper. So the timer's gone off, our rice is done. We're going to fluff it up just a little bit. And then I will put this together and show you the presentation. A scoop of rice in the bowl. And then we'll just add some chicken to the top. To get my scoop out. And then some of the chicken broth. And then I'll finish the garnish for this at the table. This soup is so pretty. I've got a couple little slices of lime there as a garnish. And I'm going to sprinkle on just a little extra cilantro. I know some folks don't like cilantro. You can use parsley or you can leave it out altogether, but I love cilantro. And then I'm going to put a couple little spoonsful of some nice fresh avocado. That makes just a beautiful presentation. But you know, it tastes even better than it looks. I have begged for this recipe, and I don't even think that the waiter knew that he was giving me the secrets from the kitchen, but I'm so glad he did. This is good. This is warm. It'll fill you up. And you know, soup season's coming, so I really recommend this. I hope you try it. I hope you like it. And thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you again tomorrow.